Hi, good evening. We're with the International Dyslexia Association Oregon branch. My name's Jared Blank. We are going to be doing an Instagram live tonight with guest Alex Rios. He will be joining us soon, so please enjoy this conversation. Also, if you notice, we've been putting in a text message. If you're liking these conversations, please feel free to donate to our organizations via this text code. And Alex will be joining us soon. And there he is.
JB, what's going on, man? How you doing?
With Alex Rios, aka Coach Rios. How are you?
Doing great. What an introduction.
It's
What a lead in.
I'm really excited for this conversation. Uh,
You should go into radio. If not, if
exactly.
running doesn't pan out.
Right. If running never pans out, then I can go into radio. Um, so I want to introduce you. This is Alex Rios, aka Coach Rios, the mayor of USC. Has had an unbelievable run at USC, going from manager to staff position to leading recruiting efforts. And Rios takes it even further with what he's doing in the sports world and people in general. Is he is a connector of human beings, and he really elevates people through connections. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with him. So please welcome Coach Rios to the show.
Yeah, well, awesome. Well, I'm glad to be here. Now that's an intro, man. Way to go. I'm humbled to be here. Happy to be a part of this.
So I want you to talk to us about your story, a little bit about you. We'll get into social media and some of the things you do and how that relates to dyslexia. But let's start with, if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words.
Yeah. So basically, I always wanted to be in sports, whatever that was, and I always wanted to be in media. And in high school at Newport Harbor High School, I played football, basketball, and baseball. And then recruiting really didn't pan out for me, and so I really wanted to be a baseball player. And so then I went up to Cuesta College and took tried to see if I could make it on the team there at Cuesta College, which was a junior college out there in San Luis Obispo. And so then I was there for 1 year, played with a lot of great players, won a couple MLB players. And then, but after not playing that much my freshman year, I was like, I want to make a different step. I want to go be where the action is. I knew I needed to be in LA. And then I moved to Los Angeles, went to Santa Monica City College, actually lived at UCLA. And then from there, went to transferred to USC, a crosstown rival, and never looked back. And so at USC, I was very involved with my fraternity, AE Pi, which we both were both in, and had no idea that we were both in later, and we can get into that. But after that, I also saw, I was up studying one night late at Levy Library, and saw that there was a position to be a USC student football manager. And I said, let's see what this is. You get to travel the team, you get all the team gear. I said, this is going to be unbelievable. And basically I worked my ass off the entire time. From the start that I got there, that was supposed to be our season where we were supposed to go undefeated national champs. And we ended up going to the Sun Bowl that year and losing to Georgia Tech. But that was basically my start of my football career at USC, literally cleaning lockers, jock straps, every little, sometimes laundry, every little thing that you could do, and basically work my way up to become, a student football recruiting assistant. And then there was a lot of different coaching changes,
Sure.
and then went in to become a recruiting analyst, director of scouting, director of player personnel, and then eventually being the director of recruiting for the football team. Was there for a number of years, up to about 2018. Had a really good run. Wanted to see what else is outside of sports. Just joined a startup, and then kind of been on my own for the past couple of months. Kind of help consulting, still in the recruiting space a little bit here and there, but that is what I've been doing. That's my story.
Oh my, it's so awesome, and I think for the audience members, one of my biggest joys was seeing Alex get that call that he was going to be on staff, that he was going to be a recruiting person while I was working there, and it was. I remember you being on the deck and just getting that, like hearing you talk. I think you were talking to your family at that point, and just seeing the excitement in your eyes, and seeing how hard you worked for it to come up, and then also while you were there, just there was never a day where you weren't pushing it at
Yeah,
USC.
it was June 3rd. I remember like it was yesterday, and I remember I was sleeping in the office. Didn't really have a lot of money. I was not getting paid. I was basically just trying to work my way for a job and end up getting it. And big thanks to your help. And trying to do a whole bunch of things for the football team, for somebody else, and finding my way to become invaluable, and where the team wouldn't run without me, and I really worked my butt off so I could get to that position. I'll never forget the day Coach Sark called me in his office and said I had a job. And even though it was, it's like you never forget that first job. And, this is not like a summer job or place that you work. This was like this is the first start to my career. And I never forget that day.
So cool. So in the description there, people have been reading that you once pushed the DFO when you were in a CVS. Like, what was that all about?
Yeah, so that DFO joke was because Jared, you were the person that held that title, and the story is when we were picking up a kid from camp for Coach Sark camp. This was the summer of 2014, I believe. 2014, yeah, 2014 or 15, either one of those. And
Yeah, one of those.
and it was summer of those, and it was like 2 a.m. We're both exhausted. Jared, you wanted to come with me, and we decided we were going to wait for the kid that we were supposed to pick up at the CVS, and we both wanted to grab like some Cheetos or a Kit Kat or something like that, and I was trying to pay for the meal because you always pay for something, and then you wanted to pay for it, and then I shoved you because I'm 6'6" and about 250 pounds, where Jared's not that size. And Jared, you're the person that said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you just shoved the DFO of USC. Like, I'm going to write you up." And now fast forward to 2020. I don't know how politically correct that was, if we can roughhouse anymore these days, but it was just it was a friendly shove, and
Totally.
but it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. No, and it was all in good fun, and awesome to work with you, Alex, in that setting. Let's dive into this, though. You are a social media guru. You're a marketing guru. You have expertise in this, and we've kind of been. You've always kind of been consulting or coach. I would even say coaching me in terms of social media. What has it been like working with someone you know, who identifies as dyslexic, and what challenges has that presented somebody on the coaching side of things? And we always hear from the dyslexic people of like the challenges that they incur, but like, what was it like coaching somebody who through social media?
Well, that's a great question. Learning through all these, learning disabilities, I think, are becoming more and more prevalent, just like the mental awareness stigma. Everyone's trying to get rid of these stigmas. And even for me, I can remember myself going to like a Sylvan Learning Center, and I can talk about that a little bit later. But as a coach, I had a little bit of knowledge in this space, because I remembered what it was being like when I was on the other side and I couldn't figure out how to get from A to B. And I remember vividly that my learning center person basically said that you're on the road, but on your road there's a whole bunch more potholes.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot more bumpy for you to get from where everybody else, it's smooth sailing. The potholes will always, they're not going to get you off. They could get you off track, but you just have to remember that they're just potholes. You just got to keep going. You can overcome something like that. And, working with you specifically with, dyslexia, and I've worked with other people that have different other, cognitive disabilities and whatever, all different learning disabilities. The big thing is, being patient with that person and being kind of, I think it's so easy to explain something. Why can't you just do this? And
Right.
why can't you just do this? It's like it's no brainer. But for anyone that's learning disabilities, and let's talk specifically with you, it's very you're like, I don't understand, and then you give me something, and it's something where I don't it's like, this is not it at all, and then
Right.
I have to almost correct myself, and I'm driving myself insane, pacing around the house saying, why didn't I do a good job? Because I feel like that's what coaches do. They're the people that need to, that they care and they want to see their student, their pupil, whatever, succeed. And so whatever that space is between you and me, sometimes I can give you tough love. Sometimes I can say, this is excellent. Sometimes I'll say, this is horrible. And, making sure that you are in a position to succeed is what I care about. And if I'm not telling you how to do it specifically correct, then that job's on me. That falls on me, because the product that you're putting out there isn't correct. And just like a coach for a football team would say, hey, that got blown out, that's on my responsibility. Our game plan was horrible. We thought we could contain this person, but this person ended up being way too good for us. We need, we came up with this game plan. That's on us. Our players they executed the game plan, but the game plan was incorrect. And that falls against the coach. And so, working with that is something that I've learned a lot through from different coaches that I've been taught from, and things that I have picked up on, where I'm a big on the tough love fan. And Coach Drevno, who's the offensive line coach at USC, was very hard on me, and there's a lot of different coaches that were always hard, but I always responded well, even with Coach Ed Ogeron, head coach of national championship LSU Tigers. Those guys were always really tough, and they demanded excellence every single day, and I had to learn the way that they wanted it. And once you can do that, it feels good to become that executioner for that person.
Absolutely. I think you hit something too, for me specifically, I liked the directness, and I loved when it was when you would always give me specific critiques to work on and to navigate, but you were very direct in what needed to be done and where it was and why it wasn't hitting that A mark, or why it wasn't getting into that category of where you knew social media needed to be, or where you knew a post would need to land. And I always really appreciated that about you. So you call it tough love. I just call it really good direct feedback. And for me personally, that was always really helpful in learning social media and learning, through some of the challenges. I know it gave you a lot of headaches and drove you nuts a lot of the time, but I also, from my standpoint, I always really appreciated the depth. For listeners just joining, we're with Alex Rios with the International Dyslexia Association Oregon branch. Alex is a sports connoisseur, a sports marketing guru, if you will. If you have questions for us, please drop us a line. Happy to answer. We're talking about Alex helped coach me through social media, helped me learn some of these techniques, how to write posts, how to construct things that I could share out into the world. And that is still a big challenge for me, something I still work on constantly and critique myself constantly. But with Alex's help, I think that it's in a better place than when I first started. So I'm very thankful for Alex. And we're talking with Alex tonight because a lot of the times we talk about the point of view of dyslexia from the teacher or the educator or the student, and now we're talking about it from the coach or the mentor, if you will. And so Alex is shedding some insight on what it's like to work with a person with dyslexia, knowing that dyslexia is not something where your IQ is affected. Your intelligence can be extremely high, but it's navigating these simple things, which a post could come across to somebody as really simple, but for someone who's dyslexic, that can be a big challenge. Alex, did you notice any of those things working with me, or could you even elaborate even further from what we've already kind of discussed?
Yeah, definitely. Specifically, let's just dive in right with you and kind of get personal. I think the biggest challenge with you was that you could not get across whatever your message was, and you were picking pictures and saying just random captions that had nothing to do with what the picture was. And I think something that I tried to drive in with you, and we had to work together for years to get this thing down, is, the picture needs to match the caption and vice versa. And you can't have, and it could be as simple as 3 words. It could be vibes. But you can't have vibes and just have a blank picture, because then it's like you're sad, it's like, but that's not what you're trying to do. You just want to be simple, and you need to help frame that in much more in a better manner so the public can understand what you are doing. And so working with you, your posts, and I struggle with this just as a writer too, and we both were communication majors, is finding that structure in the paragraph. If you're going to write a 3 caption post and you want to say that you have an event on this Friday and this is who's going to be speaking there and this is what you should bring, you can't go bring first, event last, in that order. You really need to get everyone's attention, and then tell them what they need to do and where they need to go, and shaping that structure and something where what's that message going to be, what's the title of your post going to be. I can recall right now a lot of your posts when you're right after you ran the World Marathon Challenge were the exact same things said differently, and that's what a lot of social media is, but you were giving different messages each time. And so I think the one thing that I tried to ingrain with you were just put whatever your message is first, and then elaborate on that message so people can understand where you're coming from right off the bats, because the messages were always great. I just hated having to read through 5 paragraphs of why you struggled just to get to the message. Tell me what I'm going to know a little bit, and then if I want to read down, then I'll definitely read down. And so if I didn't get to the message in a couple sentences, I knew that was a problem. That's something that we needed to work on immediately.
Yeah, don't bury the lead, right? Like,
exactly.
Make it apparent what we're trying to get across, and make it simple, especially for my audience too. I recognize that I communicate with an audience that tend to be dyslexics or have people in their family that are dyslexic. So I do want to it is really important for me to respect my audience and to want to provide them content that is both valuable but then easy to digest. So I think working with you was really, really helpful, because we kind of, and it's not perfect every time, but we've definitely improved that line of communication and gotten that into a better place than when we started.
Definitely. I think that was the big thing, is just to always work on your craft. And, especially for you, coming from a person that didn't really post anything, and I still know people today that just post, a plain picture with a simple caption, and that's part of their brand, and that's okay. But what you wanted to always say was so much more than just putting a simple caption with a picture. You wanted to use your platform where you can create that message and give that out to your brand, which is running and dyslexia, and fine-tuning that so it can be as specific and relatable to you as possible.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think that's really, really well said, especially as we talk about audiences and who you're trying to appeal to. We do have a question on the line. Does USC have a disorder education program? And if I'm taking that question correctly, there is a resource center at USC where you can go, and if you had the right accommodations, you could have your note taker there. You can have extra time on your test. So those are opportunities that USC provided with the right documentation. So hopefully that answers the question. If not, please feel free to DM me. I want to make sure you get taken care of there.
Another one, just to bounce off that, I know, a lot of the football players always had, help with, and they always had the learning disability center. With that's note takers and things like that. And so I know that it's gotten better over the years. And I know it's not specifically just for athletes. That's for all students at USC.
That's really important. I think that's really great to know. This one's for you, Alex, and give me a minute as I kind of read through this. This is from, it looks like Joan. My season tickets are in the first row behind the team. I would see you taking care of the recruits and walking up and down the sidelines. Was there ever a down moment during the game?
During the game, no, there's not. I would say at halftime is the down moment. But that's when you're trying to check on the recruits if you could find them, and making sure that they were okay and all taken care of. But when we had official visitors, which is when USC was able to pay for them and their family to come check out campus, all compliant, that was 24/7 for 48 hours, and sometimes even longer if they had travel and stuff like that. So there's no really downtime during the game. I'd say maybe a TV timeout, and when we didn't have that many recruits, and it was a Thursday night game, we could look in the stands, but that was about it.
Always working, always on the hustle there, Rios. This is a good question for you, and this comes from Andrew. Do you find specific social media platforms to be easier or more challenging to use? I'm going to answer that question as well, but I think you have some good insight on this question too.
Yeah, so here's a great example that I use in my day-to-day life. So I have never been a good cook. My entire family has cooked, and I just never learned it, never wanted to learn it, because I always had my mom, my brother, my grandmother. We've always had people that cooked. My grandmother, everyone, both sides, always cooked. So I really never had to learn how to cook because I could always have it just for me. And, during this COVID and also life after football, I lived in a fraternity in college. And then during football, we always had our training table. And so I never had to ever cook for myself. And so during COVID, I had to start, learning how to cook better. And I've done the websites and YouTube and things like that. And one thing that I found specifically that works for me is TikTok. And TikTok helped me cook. And I saw in 1 minute how pro chefs or amateur chefs made good looking food look easy and to make and made it for me. So that's kind of how I learned through TikTok. And I've done, Instagram to learn how to cook, and I've learned through, try to see if I can find a good Facebook from Food Network, so on and so forth. But that one worked best for me. And I knew that in 1 minute I could kind of steer around, even though the other ones would be like 4 or 5 minutes. The 1 minute was exactly the time and attention span that I needed, that I could get what I needed down pat. And so that one was specific. Now, on the user side of things, that's all preference. And so similar to, I use TikTok to learn how to cook. Facebook is very broad and open, and there's so many different things that you can do on it. You can have, group chats. You can have Facebook marketplaces now. I just bought a table on that. So there's so many different avenues that you can do on Facebook that's just like all encompassing. And then you have Twitter, which is, 240 characters or less and so those are tweets. So Twitter is how I get my news. I only get my news through Twitter. I don't do anything else. Twitter is how I get my news. And then on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram is kind of like where I look and see what Jared's up to. Jared posts all of his stuff on all these different platforms, but specifically he uses Instagram for all of his communication. So all of Jared things, I look there. People are posting pictures all the time. And I don't really, I follow a couple athletes, but for the most part, Instagram is cool for me just to kind of browse through and flip through. Whereas Facebook is like all of my high school friends. Twitter's my news and all up to date stuff, and then Instagram's kind of like, oh, let's see what everyone's up to, kind of fun. It's more of a social aspect, and then TikTok is whatever. But TikTok's TikTok, but TikTok for me is mostly cooking.
That's awesome. So if you're on the line, if you're interested in learning more about sports and social media, Alex Rios is definitely an expert in the field. I suggest reaching out to him. He is definitely one of a kind when it comes to really understanding all the platforms and how to really dive into it. I think, as he kind of described, yeah, Instagram's been my main platform. It's been a nice way for me to kind of document the things that I do on a daily basis, and kind of just share my story with the hopes that it's impacting other people and supporting other people's endeavors as they try to do their things. Rios, so on this show we have a rule that the guest gets the last word, and typically it's a message a message you'd like to send to the world, be it educators, be it people that you work with. It could be around sports, it could be around dyslexia, but what would your message be in a concluding sentence?
In a concluding sentence, I would say, in the spirit of dyslexia, you are not alone. I feel like there are so many people that and don't know that have something that they are working with themselves specifically. If that's a learning disability, if that's something that's family oriented, we need to see a lot more compassion in this world. And the final message that I would say is be compassionate. Put yourself, even if you think you know someone's story, even if you think it's so easy for yourself to do something, it's not always that way. And, a little bit more compassion. And even if you don't know their story, why don't you give them the benefit of the doubt and do a good turn daily? Be a mensch, as they say in the Jewish religion or in Yiddish. Be a mensch and do that good turn. I think the world would be a much better place.
What a way to end it. Alex, we want to thank you for taking the time on a Monday night, and we really appreciate it. And thanks for being a supporter of the dyslexia community and all that you're doing in sports and media.
Thank you, Jared. Pleasure to be here. Really, really happy to be here, and good luck to you, and we'll probably talk later.
Yeah, we probably will. Take care.
All right, bye.
Have a good night.
See ya.